This is Off the Shelf, a program dedicated to keeping you informed about your local library. This month, we go prehistoric with the Dinosaur Encounter event at the Santa Catalina Branch. We have a bookside chat with Veronica from the Allendale Hill Avenue branch pairing. We give you a look inside the Catch Up and Sneak Ahead program. We learn about the Neighborhood Scientist team. And we let you know what's happening in September.
We're here at La Pintoresca Library in Pasadena. We're here during the summer so that we can work with our students, tutor them, help them to enjoy and engage in mathematics, language arts, and science.
The instruction is taught in a fun, creative way through educational games by making them competitive, making them think in a different way about certain concepts. So one example was when they were talking about numbers, and they had them draw shapes within that number, and so they created a whole art piece out of a number.
As a teacher, I noticed that at the end of the school year, the children were near ready for the next grade level, but then when they entered the next year, attrition had occurred. They had lost some of the knowledge. So if we keep the brain cells active during the summer, they won't lose it. So it helps them to not just start on grade level and come up a little bit. So if we can find their weakness, we can support it, build on them, and bring them up to the next level. This is coming from my heart. I know that there were some funds available like to start the program, but I didn't know that. So I just went out, I knew what we needed, and I just go out and buy it. And then we work it from there. It's from the heart. And in the summer though, children might like the first 2 weeks watching television, but after that, they're bored. So you come to the library, this is my opportunity to have fun with science and math. We're the worst in math and geography, so they need to know about the continents, the ladybugs, where do they appear, things like that. So I try to teach thematically, and if we can make a connection in our brains and connect the neurons, the knowledge becomes permanent. My native language is English. I recognize some Japanese. I speak and read and write Spanish. I'm learning Portuguese. I also work with the deaf and the hard of hearing. It helps because I'm able to include the parents. What happens with that, maybe a child is born at home and they have a native language, but when they go to school, they're learning English. Somewhere, something is lost in translation. They bring the homework home, but they can't communicate with the parents, right? So what happens during report card time? What happens? The less you know in the second language, the less likely you are to have success. My goal is to stop the functionally illiterate. It's too many. We know by third grade that if you're not reading 90 words a minute, there's more than an 80% chance that you will end up as part of the prison population. We've got the proof. How do we know? We haven't built enough prisons. They're overcrowded. So if I can do anything to encourage children to read, to become excited about learning, my job is done. It's what you hear, what you see, what you smell, taste, touch that helps you to remember and to learn so much. So if I can, well, they can't eat the bugs, but they can see them, they can listen to the sounds, they can talk about them, and they will remember that. So if it's brought up in a book, they'll go, oh yeah, we can't see this part, but we know that there are 6 legs, blah, 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 because they've had the hands-on. If they can touch things and count one-on-one, they will begin to understand formulas and be able to memorize. Most of our students today don't have that capacity. They're not given time to explore things with their hands. They're not given manipulatives during math time. So the concepts don't stick.
This program gives students a head start by getting them used to some of the concepts that they're going to be learning in school. So when they do learn them in school, they'll be like, oh yeah, I remember doing that at the library. I believe this program is vital because it gives them an opportunity to really dig into the concepts that they'll be learning in school. There's a lot of distractions here and there. Instead of doing something on the street, they're in here in the library learning and then making new friends.
One of my favorite poems I learned in 4th grade, it came from my teacher at 118th Street School. She made us memorize a poem a week, and she gave me a love for reading. It's called The Library by Barbara A. Huff. It looks like any building when you pass it on the street, made of stone and glass and marble, made of iron and concrete. But once inside, you can ride a camera, or a train. Visit Rome, Sime or Nome, feel a hurricane. Meet a king, learn to sing, how to bake a pie. Go to sea, plant a tree, find how airplanes fly. Train a horse and of course have all the dogs you like. See the moon, a sandy dune, or catch a whopping pipe. Everything that books can bring, you'll find inside these walls. A world is there for you to share when adventure calls. You cannot tell its magic by the way the building looks, but there's wonderment within it, the wonderment of books.
I've always grown up with libraries. I grew up going to my neighborhood public library. My mom would drop me off and I spend hours there in the children's section and the adult section, and it just appealed to me that I had access, free access to whatever I wanted. And there was no judgment when checking out items, and I really liked the freedom in public libraries. When I became an undergrad in college, I worked at the library all 4 years and had experience with shelving, with working the circulation desk, handling fines. And when it was finally time to decide on a career, I figured, hey, might as well go into librarianship. This is what I like, and I think it's the place where I thought I belonged, and I do. And it's just been great ever since. Well, we do have the middle school as well as the high school, so there is a big difference between a 6th, 7th, and 8th grader and a 12th grader. So a lot of the times, kids just want to decompress. They've been at school all day in a classroom, and they come here to sort of decompress. They use the internet, they catch up with their friends, and a lot of them do study and check out items. So we like to create activities that are just simple, nothing complicated, because they do have the short attention spans right after class. So we know that, and we're very cognizant of that. So we have board games, cards. A lot of the kids sometimes bring their own cards, but we have those available as well. We will have special programs for Halloween, where they can decorate mugs, also stuff for Christmas, the holidays. Valentine's Day is a big one where we just have a bunch of construction paper out, and a lot of them do sort of anti-Valentine's Day cards, which is a lot of fun. So we tend to do things that are just very simple, to the point, something that they can just decompress with and enjoy. It is huge, Dungeons and Dragons. In fact, this past school year, I saw a huge influx of the students playing that. And it's great because they are entertained, they are busy, they do get loud though. But it's kind of neat seeing that because they're engaged in something and they're very interested in that. And you know, this is a small building, so we expect there to be noise, especially after 3 o'clock. And I think a lot of the patrons, the adult patrons, know that as well, that there is a certain noise level that is acceptable. I think my favorite adult fiction book is She's Come Undone by Wally Lamb. And nonfiction, most likely, is Stiff by Mary Roach. And that the subheading of that is The Curious Lives of Human Cadavers. It's all about the history of human cadavers and their uses throughout time. Children's ones, I grew up with Beverly Cleary and the Ramona series, so that's always holds a special place in my heart, the Ramona series. And then I believe for teens, because I was the teen librarian for a short time, would be the Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie. So I think my favorite children's book is The Watermelon Seed by Greg Pizzoli. It's very fun to do during story time because you get to do a lot of screaming and yelling, and the kids get super excited about that, and it's just a really fun story. I think it's very important to the community because the public library does create community. We have something here for everyone, even though we are a small branch. Not only do we have the books, we have DVDs, we have audiobooks, we have magazines, and those circulate very heavily. But we also have internet access, which is free. And I think what's really interesting about public libraries is it's a place that's open to everyone, and you're not expected to purchase anything. You can hang out here for as long as we're open, use our facilities. There's no expectations for you except to enjoy it. And as employees, we do create relationships with our patrons, especially in a branch as small as this one. We get to know the patrons by their first names. We get to know their families. They get to know us and our families, and we create a relationship with them, whether it's through checking out books, whether it's using the internet, or some of the programs we have that really bring people together, and it's all free. The Allendale Library is a great branch. It's a modern building, it's brightly lit, staff is amazing. I'm very grateful and lucky to be working with a staff that's very dynamic, that's very on their toes, that's very community oriented. And I think that's what makes us stand out, as well as the relationship we have with each other and with the community makes it just a very special branch.
This is a class as part of the Metro Best class series in partnership with the Pasadena Public Library and also the LA River Bike Path Division in Metro. We're putting on these classes to help folks become more comfortable on the bike. This is a Bike 2 class. It's a little more advanced in the skill level. It's really intended for adults or folks who are 16 and older who have ridden a bike before. Maybe it's been a while, it's been a few years, and they've got a bike in the garage, it's just building dust. They want to hop back on there. This class is intended to give them the confidence and the skills that they need to do so safely. Everyone who comes to any class, including Bike 101, gets a free helmet and set of bike lights. In the Bike 101 class, we really go over just kind of the basic safety information that folks need to ride a bike. So how to choose a bike, what you need on a bike to make sure it's safe, brakes, air in the tires, that sort of thing. And we talk about the general rules of the road. Because a lot of folks don't know that bikes are able to use the lane the same way that cars do, and that bikes are supposed to follow the same rules that cars do. So that's kind of what we go over in Bike 101. Bike 1 is the next level up. That class is half classroom based and then half drill. So we go over some of the stuff that we talk about in Bike 101. We go over what the laws are, how to ride safely, how to stay visible and predictable, because that's really the key to being safe on a bike. And then we do a few drills. We practice mounting and dismounting the bike. We talk about starting and stopping. And then we start to practice what we call scanning and signaling. And that means looking around your environment and then using your hand signals to let drivers and other road users know when you're going to get over or turn in traffic. The last class is Bike 3. So Bike 3 is actually a community ride. So that gives us a chance to practice the skills that people learn and had a chance to hone in Bike 1 and 2. I've really enjoyed teaching the classes here at the Pasadena Public Library. We've had a really good turnout for every class. People are super excited. I can tell that people really appreciate having access to the knowledge they need to ride safely. And one great thing about Pasadena is it's absolutely beautiful up here. In fact, I drove up here an hour early so that I could ride my bike around Pasadena before the class started, because it's actually really gorgeous. And so I think that people are coming to this class a lot because they want to be able to enjoy that more. They want to be able to enjoy the open air and the mountains and all the beautiful parks that Pasadena has to offer. And a bike is a great way to do that. And so we've definitely seen a really positive response from the community here. And I'm excited to continue working with the Pasadena Library on this. Bike safety classes are just one of the ways that we see mobility justice taking form and giving people the confidence to travel their streets, to travel their neighborhoods and access the resources that they need. But we also work on advocacy at the state level and at the local level to make it safer. We're working on transit justice projects where we want to make public transportation a safe place and encourage our public transportation agencies like Metro to consider their core riders, that is the people who depend on the public transportation to get around, and making our neighborhoods more livable. Livable communities is sort of what it's all about. That is the buzzword right now for this sort of idea that we all deserve to live in spaces that are safe, clean, and accessible.
We are at the Santa Catalina Branch Library in Pasadena, and today we performed our Dino Encounter show with Rocky the T-Rex. We take the children on a tour of the Cretaceous period. We've chosen 5 different dinosaurs that were found here in North America that they commonly will find in like a toy store, like Triceratops or a Stygimoloch or a raptor, which is actually a Deinonychus, and of course T-Rex. We also have an Ankylosaur, and we share about facts and information, and we take that information and distill that down to the developmental age of the children so that it's interesting for really 3-year-olds through 7 or 8-year-olds is really the sweet spot for what we present. It's different in that we actually bring in very lifelike, realistic, very large dinosaur puppets that are as modeled as closely as possible to what we believe those animals actually look like. And so it's almost like visiting a petting zoo where you would go visit maybe a pony or a goat or a sheep or something like that. But we bring them in, have them moving and sort of interacting with the audience, which brings that whole other dimension to the experience for the children. When I was little, really everything was about the space program. That was what captivated my interest and really what drove me in science to study science in school. What I strive to do is to take whatever that thing is that strikes a chord with our children that we can use to captivate their interest and get them motivated and interested in school and learning, then let's use that. In this case, it happens to be dinosaurs. The idea is that if we restrict our learning experience to TV and a tablet and just a book or a classroom, the children miss an entire dimension of what it means to actually transport themselves into that experience and start to live that out. Especially in this age where we know that so much of dressing up like a fireman or dressing up like a police officer or acting out that sort of Iron Man, Marvel character is so important to them, I think being able to put on the role of a scientist has equal value. Usually, the children will warm up to the animal. They find that it's approachable because in our presentation, we sort of give a character and a persona to them that makes them seem more approachable. This is like the perfect forum, I think, to complement all the ways that children learn today. Today, unlike when I was a child, or maybe a lot of adults in our audience, where we just had books, or we just went to school, and we just had the libraries, now children have lots of different means to have experiences or to learn about a subject. By bringing it back home to the library, I think reinforces the value of factual information, being able to go and do research and look up what we want to learn about, and being able to go and do that in the tactile experience of holding a book. Those are all great reinforcements to learning. We've incorporated in a similar parallel show to this, which is the Ice Age, the age of the mammals. We also have science behind the Lewis and Clark expedition, which is also a hands-on interactive experience. And we're about to launch our Mars Encounter, which takes a step away from NASA, but brings in a hands-on interactive, complete with a Mars rover experience of what it would really be like to visit the red planet. So all of these areas are things that we're doing to really captivate children's interest in science and do so in a very experiential way.
So Neighborhood Science is kind of it's a partnership with the Los Angeles Public Library. And what we're doing is we are essentially working with the kids to fill in gaps. The GLOBE program, which initiated this, has several satellites orbiting, and they take aerial photos and they record the data of various land types, land covers, soil types, that sort of thing. By having kids come out here and take measurements and record the differences in land cover and the tree height and the types of trees that are around, we're hoping to kind of paint a better picture of the Earth, essentially. And in doing this, this kind of promotes two things. The first thing is having kids learn how to think scientifically, how they collect data, they make hypotheses, and they form conclusions from what they've looked at. And the second is kind of encouraging an environmental awareness, or just being able to look at your neighborhood, your community, and see what is what, and hopefully that will lead to them being able to chart out changes, see what is happening in their environment. It's good to get these kids out here and get them thinking scientifically. I think to kind of separate the idea of the scientist being isolated, stuck in the lab, and just working solely on their own to gather data and formulate things, when in reality anyone can think in a scientific way. And that's great. That lowers the barrier of entry. It's about being able to really pay off your curiosity in a way that is not only constructive but is disciplined enough to actually have a result. That's the main benefit of getting them out here and, you know, saying the whole world is, your whole environment is something that you can study.
Here's what's happening in September. Pasadena Libraries now offers citizenship and immigration resources with newly created citizenship corners at Central Library, La Pintoresca, and Villa Park branches. These sites will provide patrons with access to resources and materials to assist them with understanding U.S. citizenship and related processes, including information kits available for checkout. There will also be free citizenship preparation classes available at 2 sites in September. The Central Library hosts a number of author talks throughout September. Janet Fitch, Chimes of a Lost Cathedral, Carla Rachel Samuth, One Day on the Gold Line, a memoir and essays, Eliza Cowell and Anne Elliott Cutting, The Urban Forager. Love young adult novels? The popular Pasadena Loves YA Teen Book Festival will bring 17 authors to the Central Library for a series of panel discussions and book signings on September 21st from noon to 4 p.m. The Pasadena Public Library celebrates Hispanic Heritage Month. On September 19th from 3:30 to 5:30 p.m., join us at Fiesta La Pintoresca for a fun afternoon filled with performances of charro rope tricks, stories, music, and crafts. To learn more about these programs and other offerings, visit our website at pasadenapubliclibrary.net or pick up a printed copy of Off the Shelf at one of your local libraries.